The word Boker is the single most instructive and inspiring word in Parshas Korach. To understand it is to appreciate to some extent the greatness of Moshe Rabbeinu, and to internalize it is to gain one of life's most important lessons, particularly for our time. Picture in your mind's eye the opening scene of this week's Parsha. Korach and his band of malcontents, they approach Moshe Rabbeinu, and they argue. They claim, Moshe, why are you the leader? What makes you and Aaron so much better than anyone else? And think for a moment what you would say if you were in Moshe's position in that very instant. Here's what I would say. I would say, Korach, how dare you? How dare you? I didn't want this position. I did everything I could not to be the leader of this nation. I begged Hashem not to have to carry this burden, but it was thrust upon me. And so I have dutifully served this nation, and I have sacrificed everything for this people. I have sacrificed everything. And Aaron has also made the ultimate sacrifice for this nation. What's more, far from seizing power to myself, I've asked to share my prophecy with others, for other people to help me carry this tremendous and crushing burden. And all of that is to say nothing of the fact that as the leader of this nation, I have saved you from yourselves and from utter destruction on multiple occasions. Korach, how dare you? That's what I would say. But Moshe does not say any of that. Pasuk tells us, "Vaydaber al Korach ve'al kol adaso lemor." He spoke to Korach and to all of his company, saying, "Boker v'yoda Hashem es asher lo ve'es hakadosh." In the morning, Hashem will show who are His and who is holy. Moshe does not respond with his absolutely justified sense of indignation. He does not argue his just case and cause. Moshe says, "Boker, we will deal with this tomorrow." And in doing so, Moshe accomplishes three things. Firstly, he gives his adversaries a chance to rethink the road that they are choosing and the claims that they are making. Rashi says, in the mind of Moshe Rabbeinu, Ata is shichros hulanu. Right? Moshe says, people are drinking, maybe this is the wine speaking right now. Maybe with a night to think it over, they'll come to their senses. And indeed, at least one member of the rebels do come to their senses. On ben Peles, thanks to the intervention of his wife, decides that he's going to abandon Korach's initiative, and we don't hear from him again. And so by deferring his response, Moshe gives these people a chance to recalibrate, to soften their position or change course altogether, and he displays, really on a deeper level, a kind of a sympathy for these people. Instead of responding with anger, Moshe responds with sympathy, and he says, well, maybe what they're saying is not really representative of who they are. Maybe it's just the wine speaking. And so Moshe gives them time, and he gives them the benefit of the doubt. Secondly, Mizrahi, one of the super commentaries on Rashi, tells us that shichros in this context doesn't actually mean drunkenness from wine, but rather shichros hamachlokes, the intoxication of the argument itself. Moshe didn't respond in this moment because he knew that Korach and his band of rebels, they were intoxicated, they were swept up in the heat of the moment and the momentum of their anger. And so even if Moshe would respond with the most compelling argument, with all the facts stacked on his side, they would fall on deaf ears. And so Moshe defers, and he knows that going at this head on in the heat of the moment would be fruitless. That's why Moshe pushes it off. And finally, and this is really the most important of all, Moshe recognizes that he needs to strike a fine balance. And that's what he is doing in the subtle move that he makes here. He needs to strike a fine balance, because Moshe cannot simply ignore the complaints of the nation, of his constituents. He needs to be a responsive leader. He needs to take seriously how people are feeling. But he also needs to remain a little bit above the fray. To engage, to argue his own case to these people was beneath him. It would at once dignify his adversaries and diminish his own dignity, his own posture, his own integrity. And so he responds with a series of clarifying tests that would take place the next day, but he never pleads his own case to the nation. In that way, Moshe responds without being dragged down to their level. I think that in a time when daily we are exposed to poisonous arguments taking place, vitriol on the internet and on social media, when we are constantly being dared by Facebook and by Twitter to satisfy our impulses that tell us to go and argue with wrong-headed people in the heat of the moment. So surely we can all stand to take a moment and to think about, to appreciate the behavior that is modeled for us by Moshe Rabbeinu in this moment. To learn how to say Boker, tomorrow. I can respond tomorrow. And in doing so, to show sympathy for our adversaries. Maybe they don't really mean what they're saying. Maybe given a little bit of time, they'll change course. To give others a chance to cool off, to create an environment where a fruitful exchange of ideas is actually possible. And above all else, to preserve our own dignity and not to be dragged down in an argument and to an argument that is beneath us. Boker. It's just one word, but it really speaks volumes. I wish you and your families a good Shabbos.